One of the changes brought with Star Citizen patch 3.24.2 was to the multifunction displays used in the various ships around the verse, and that's very noticeable in the Prospector. Couple that with the fact that mining can now be done in nav modes, and you've got a few changes to the gameplay loop affecting a sub-patch. I'm Forrester, and this gameplay video shows some mining in patch 3.24 to showcase some of those changes, scanning for rocks, breaking them apart, refining them before heading back to cell up. To keep the overall length of the video down, some of the footage, such as quantum hops, have been sped up, and those parts are clearly marked as such, but otherwise this video is a full session end to end. And this is intended to be a gameplay video rather than a guide, although there is a mining tutorial available on the channel if that's what you are hoping for. So, without further ado, let's get started. And we'll start by spawning in the Prospector, letting it come up the ramp and making the long way across the hangar to get aboard. I did think it was worth slowing down for just a moment to appreciate that wonderful paint scheme. Then hopping into the pilot's chair and making our way up into the ship before departing the hangar. And there we have it, Prospector is in the air, the beauty of ×12 speed as we enjoy a nice sunrise over New Babbage with the Prospector. In case you're wondering, this livery is the Icebreak livery for the Prospector. Fairly sure it was at one point a Luminalia gift, which is why I have it in the hangar, but of course with that white and blue colour scheme it regularly gets put on the ships that I have it for. Then up and across to Port Tressler, and then we're going to head across to Mike L1 for this trip. I've done a video recently where I do some mining in some of the different asteroid belts, and actually mining close to a refinery. I quite liked that. It was much easier to be able to quickly go in and drop off a load of ore and then get back out mining again. So I'm going to be repeating that one. And this is the new mining heads-up display. It's ever so subtly different from the previous one, but pretty cool to see nonetheless. And of course, the first rock that we encounter is far too big to be cracking with this. I have my Lancet MH1 mining laser equipped. It's slightly different from the stock loadout. I also have a Riga module, which does give slightly more charge power to the laser at the expense of having a smaller optimal charge window. Got a Q-type asteroid here with gold in. I think it's largely going to be too big, but we'll check by firing the laser at it. And yeah, that charge bar is not moving at all, so it is too big. That's fine, that's what I thought. I always try, even the rocks that say they're impossible, because sometimes you get a little bit of charge. If you can get a little bit of charge, if you are patient enough, you might be able to break it, but try the next one. No, that's exactly the same, which is fine. We learn by trying, don't we? The final one has a little bit of laranite in it. It's a smaller rock, so we should be able to break this quite easily. Oh, there we go. That charge going all the way up. You see on the right hand side that optimal charge window is much smaller than usual. That's because of the modules I've got equipped. I'm all about the laser power here, and I guess I'm being very trusting of my future self to keep it in that optimal window where possible. There are some edge cases where essentially it just removes the optimal window entirely and you almost have to overcharge to be able to break the rock, but those are edge cases. They're few and far between. Usually you can make it work. And here's the other mining change. Right click now enters into your kind of zoom mode, so it doesn't switch between modes. So you have to change to the extraction mode by using a different keybind. And every time I start mining, I forget what that new keybind is. So I'm going to go into the keybindings menu, check it out, and it's left alt and button 1. So left alt and left click. to get to extraction mode. Always forget that every time. Still right click every time. Now at this point I'm grabbing some copper aboard. So I've got laranite, I've got copper. So I should point out, for those who are purists in the purest of senses for mining, I'm not min-maxing this run. Because I'm so close to the refinery, I'd much rather get jobs on the queue, cargo in the hold, and just enjoy a little bit of mining whilst I'm out and about. So I'm not necessarily just going to be going for the most profitable things. I'm not chasing alpha UEC per hour or anything like that. I just enjoy mining, so that's exactly what I'm hoping to achieve from this run. So in case you see it and think, ooh, laranite, copper, those aren't the most profitable rocks. No, they're not, but they're fun. And there we have a spooky little view of the icebreaker prospector, out enjoying a little bit of mining. So here we are into times 12 speed, got to our next rock, which is a much larger rock. But actually you can see here that we have got some charge on the bar. So in my mind, because the bar is charging, even though the rock is large, I think it's worth a break. There's some gold in here as well, which is quite valuable. Once again, you see, because of the combination of the laser and the modules that I have on, that charging window size is very small. But because the rock is charging so slowly, I think it's feasible. We shall see. Still slowly charging. There's also an effect that I don't know if it's a real effect or it's just a perceived effect, but the further up the charge bar you go, especially when you get into the optimal zone, you need a lot less laser power to keep it going, so I do kind of end up reducing that laser power a little bit as it gets towards that optimal zone. Slowly creeping up. So this is mining gameplay. To some people it will not be that interesting if you're much more into your high adrenaline combat gameplay, but for me it's quite enjoyable. It's something that I can kind of head away and do in my own time, and I don't have to have quite the same reactions as I do in combat because I'm just watching one thing, which is that level of charge, making sure it gets into the green zone and then throttling back the laser to try and keep it in that green zone. I think I've talked about this before, but on my throttle I fly with a throttle and stick. And on my throttle I've got a lever which is traditionally used in flight sims as a flaps lever, but what it means is that I've got an axis which is an actual lever which I can use to control the throttle, so pushing it forward, pulling it back, and for really fine control in a situation like this, that kind of throttle lever is perfect for controlling the mining laser. So break up the next rock, and then got another rock with a little bit of a greasium in there, and that's the cargo full. So I'm going to head all the way back to the station, which isn't far because we're just around the station anyway, and get the first refinery job on. Select the prospector from the list. I'm going to be going with the Ferron exchange for this job. Have a fairly kind of quick overnight, yeah, just under 9 hours. So those will be turned into actual proper ore in basically by the morning. And then head out and grab our next load. You can, of course, just choose to sell the raw ore straight from the prospector to the refinery. I tend not to do that because I've got plenty of cargo ships, and I'm quite happy to break up the gameplay loop and do something a little bit different. So I tend to refine all the time. Even when there's a patch incoming, I'll just use a short refinement method. But you can choose to sell directly to get the money straight away, don't pay any costs, don't have to haul anything. So if that's what you're into, you can do that too. And we have some Quantanium here. Quantanium is very profitable. It does have the trade-off, which is that Quantanium go boom, but Quantanium also very healthy for your wallet. Now you can see here the challenge with the modules that I have equipped for this. Quantanium is a very unstable ore, and also that optimal charge window is tiny, so tiny you can barely see it, which is a downside of not just Quantanium, but in this case Quantanium plus the Lancet plus the Riga that I have equipped. I've equipped a laser which is all about power rather than having that optimal charge window. That said, this is not going to be impossible. I just have to manage the situation a little bit. So you can see when I don't have the laser firing on the rock, I can see the charge window. So what I'm going to be doing is overcharging the rock intentionally to get into that red overcharge, but hopefully by not too much, and then just pulling back at the right time to A, see that optimal charge, and B, make sure that when the rock inevitably explodes, because it is going to explode because I'm having to overcharge it to keep it in that optimal window, that I'm at a safe distance before it go boom. And I just haven't given quite enough power there. Unfortunately, the memory in the rock for the overcharge is much better than the memory for the optimal charge, so that overcharge sticks around for longer. Determined to break this rock. It's 38 SCUs, and 21 SCUs of that is Quantanium. So it's probably 6 or 7 SCUs of Quantanium, which is very valuable actually. I'll happily take that. Alright, we're back in overcharge again. Just stopping the laser to see that charge window and see how it's doing. Still going up. So now I'm going to back off. Make sure I'm out of the way of any explosion. And then head on back in and have a look for those rocks as they're broken up. So one of the optimal things for Quantanium is obviously as soon as you get it aboard, the timer starts running down. So you get a certain amount of time as the material gets more and more unstable in your cargo hold, and then it explodes. But that time is a bit more generous than it used to be. I think it's about 25 minutes now, and it used to be shorter. So you actually have plenty of time. And in this case, I'm right by the refinery deck. I don't have to travel anywhere with my Quantanium really. I just fly back across. So I'm not so bothered about just harvesting it straight away. I'm not going to take 25 minutes to get this back to a refinery deck. So you might see that other times other miners will talk about waiting before you bring that Quantanium aboard, because it's bringing it aboard the ship that starts the timer. But for me, I'm so close to the refinery, I'm just going to start grabbing it as soon as I see it. Of course, I'm still doing the thing that I usually do, which is just working out if there is a better rock to grab first. But actually it looks like the break is fairly even across all of these small nodes, so there you see it now on the heads-up display. Volatile cargo detected 2440, and it also says on the bottom right Quantanium and the current stability versus 100%. So you can use that to keep yourself right, know when you need to start heading back, and as soon as you get that into the refinery, i.e. through the job board on the refinery deck, that's when that timer stops. Above 6 SCU of Quantanium there though. We've got another rock to break. There we go, that's actually cargo full. 7.6 SCUs of Quantanium. So that's the Prospector full again already, so it's going to be back to the station, get the next refinery job logged. So that's 7.6 SCU of Quantanium. Clearly some of that will be lost to inefficiencies during the refining method, but that's going to be the most valuable ore that we will find on this trip for sure, and probably by a long way. Let's not give them the wrong one there. So I'm going for the Ferron exchange again. That's just because at the time of recording I don't know if there's going to be another patch, and the patches that drop are notorious for very, very quickly demolishing your refinery jobs in progress. So I'm doing the Ferron exchange, which is a shorter refinement process so that I can pick it up sooner. And then out scanning again to find my next rock. Another one that's too big. That's fine, worth a go. Search again. A bit of beryllium in that one. Not enough to be worthwhile. Add some salvage panels. And there's plenty of this in solo mining, you know, just flying around, finding something that suits your needs, a rock to break. Depends on how lucky you are, how long you spend doing that. Managed to get a little bit of beryllium in that one. Some laranite there, bit of copper. And I'm not picky, I should point that out again, you know, if I find something like that, I'd rather grab it and move on. Have a rock here with a bit of laranite in, a bit of quartz in. Again, a very small optimal window. But it should be fine. So I tend to do a fair amount of mining in my spare time. I'm not by any means an expert miner, but even I can mostly keep it in that green zone, even with this loadout. And if I was particularly worried about it, I could change to a different loadout that focuses on having the optimal window size, rather than just the mining laser power. This is all about power. And that's because I get very sad when I find a rock that I can't break, that I think, oh, I should be able to break that. So by having always like max power, then the chances are if I find a rock, I can break it, if it is a breakable rock. And of course there are the mining gadgets as well, which can help, as well as some of the active modules that can also help. But for me, I like a pick up and fly sort of thing. If I have to get out to put a module down, or if I have to get out to put a gadget down, or if I have to replenish the modules for the active modules, it's a lot more work for me, so I'm much more laissez-faire. So we're at 24 SCUs, we're mostly full. So rather than go out and seek a rock and risk disappointment if I find a perfect Quantanium rock but don't have room in my cargo hold for it, I'm gonna head back to the station, get a refinery job on. So at this point for this play session, between leaving New Babbage, flying here, and doing 3 trips to the refinery, this session has got to be about 1 hour. So at this point I'm thinking, actually, I think I'll call that quits for the night. That's been a nice hour of doing a bit of mining, got 3 jobs in the refinery, and then I'll come back in the morning to collect them. And with a little bit of video editing magic, here I am back in the morning to collect them. So 2 of the orders have completely finished. The Quantanium order is taking a little bit longer, but as I said, there is a patch due imminently at this time, so rather than wait, I think I'm going to collect it a little bit early. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it thinks that the Zeus CL is full, so I'm going to step back from the terminal, then open it again, have it think again, and then suddenly the Zeus CL is not full. So I am going to be stopping this order slightly early. Not all of the Quantanium is finished, but it's still a decent amount that I'll be able to go away and sell, so I'd rather have some profit than no profit. Interestingly, the costs for refining those goods were 29,000 Alpha UC, so that's what it cost me to run those 3 refinery jobs. About half of that was the Quantanium job. That was significant. And here's the cargo loaded up into the back of the Zeus CL, all loaded up for me. Fortunately, it's loaded up in such a way that you can't go up the ramp. This is the downside with the Zeus CL when you do have cargo holds that's either full or is auto-loaded, is often those rear slots get filled up, so it's not easy to use the ramp. There is the ladder, which is great for hopping aboard, but in a situation like this where you want to see how well the cargo grid is loaded or otherwise, you have to go all the way back and then all the way forward to see. But I think that seems okay to begin with. So hopping to the front of the ship, starting her up, then heading out to Microtech. Do enjoy this ×12 speed quantum drive. If only we had that in game. I say that in jest, of course. I know that having some sort of a time delay is important for breaking up gameplay, but
I'm sorry.
I did just think I'd slow this down because this seems like a really majestic scene of like flying to the hangar. The lighting in New Babbage is just right, like the little wisps of cloud beneath the ship. And then a long, lazy turnaround to get to the hangar. I don't know, I quite liked it. There was just something about this scene that I thought, oh, that does it for me, that does. It's probably not my flying style though, as I drift heavily into the hangar there. And then move into a position such that the rear of the Zeus is facing that freight elevator. So it is sometimes possible to sell directly from the ship and pay the auto unload fees, but in a situation like this, I've got lots of cargo all stacked up on each other, and they're cargo of different types. So what I find in practice is sometimes that means is that the grid gets a little bit grumpy about. It's essentially, if you're selling something that happens to be underneath other boxes, all the boxes need to be rejigged, and sometimes that just doesn't work. I think auto-loading and unloading could end up being a little bit more reliable in the future, but for now, it's not. And of course, you only find that out after you've done a long tram hop in order to get to sell up. Arguably, you could park outside of the commons, many people do, but then you have to take your ship back if you're wanting to be a good citizen and to have your ship readily available for use next time. So I prefer to just manually unload the cargo, which does take a little bit more time, and especially with the Zeus CL can be a bit awkward if you've got those front slots absolutely chock-a-block filled. But it's done. The cargo is unloaded, so it's now just a case of heading across to sell up. So in terms of the timings for this gameplay session, it was about an hour's worth of mining. That includes getting to the refinery deck and then getting those 3 mining jobs, and then about half an hour to come back, get all the cargo unloaded, head back across here and sell up. Could be much faster if I use a different cargo ship, but there we have it, 150,900 Alpha UEC from that Quantanium alone. So in total, all of this ore is selling for 313,500. I've got the refinery costs, which were 29,000, for a total profit of 284,500 Alpha UEC. That was for about an hour and a half. It's not great, but it's not terrible, and I enjoyed it, and that's the main thing. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to let me know I should make more similar videos, and if you're not yet subscribed, given that you've got this far, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube will know to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.